Common probate mistakes. My name is Wanda Rochelle, and I'm a licensed realtor and probate specialist serving Georgia, Florida, and Alabama. Welcome to my channel. Today, I have a special guest with me. I have attorney Rhea Johnson, and we are talking again about common probate mistakes. And so welcome to my channel today, Attorney Johnson. Would you like to go ahead and greet everyone?
Yes, good morning. Thank you so much, Wanda. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to your audience and to share my knowledge and experience on probate matters. I know that you are an expert in the real estate and probate field, and allowing me to come in and share what I know. If it can be a blessing to your clients and to your business, I definitely want to be a part of that. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. And this is actually your second time on my channel. There's another video that we did probably about 6 months ago. And so for those of you that are watching, she is definitely a resource. She has given us a lot of knowledge in the other videos. So I'm going to make sure I put a link to that video here also. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. And let's talk about these mistakes, these probate mistakes that people make. What's the first
Yes.
one?
Well, I would say the very first one, I would tell people is that when a person leaves a last will and testament behind and they've appointed you or someone in the family as an executor, there is an additional step. And some people don't realize that that will has to be probated before they can act on it. So knowing that you have to probate a will is something that a lot of people don't know. So I think it seems like it is something that would be common, be obvious, but there are people that really just think, I have the will, I'm the executor, and they can just start doing things, but they do need to have that will be probated. So
Okay.
that is the first thing. And people that are sitting on wills need to understand that the law requires that they file that will promptly. So the industry believes that 5 years is the period within which a will needs to be filed, but definitely filing it as soon as possible. And there are reasons for that to get it filed, but definitely going ahead and making that step and getting that will probated is the first thing I think people don't realize they need to do.
Okay. So I want to make sure that everyone that's watching understands, because what I realize is a lot of people don't even know what probate is. So when you say they need to probate it, what does that mean? They need to file it in the
Yeah.
file a
So
petition?
that
Mhm.
so that will has to be presented before a probate court. And so the probate court has jurisdiction over estates. And so the probate court will take the will in through a filing and a process. And we could talk more about what the process looks like. But there is a way in which you have to file it and submit a petition to probate it. And so once you probate the will, it goes under a process of review, not only just with the court, but with the family. And then at a certain point, the court will either validate the will or determine that the will should not be validated. And
Okay.
so you can't move forward until that will has been officially probated and accepted by the probate court. So that is the process in which you have to put that will out there and present it for it to be accepted. So it has to be vetted. So
Okay.
yeah.
Awesome. And when you say move forward, that means um
Yeah, move forward
let's
with the
talk about,
sale of any homes,
okay.
move forward with going to the bank and basically being able to get proceeds that were left in the decedent's account,
Mhm.
being able to talk to creditors, being able to talk to a mortgage company about possibly a payment plan or holding the mortgage off until, maybe working out some kind of arrangement with them. Anything that executor needs to handle the business of the decedent's estate, they will need something called letters testamentary
Mhm.
if they have a will. And so the will is one thing, but you can't take that will to the bank and say, hey, I have a will. And it says right here, I am the executor. You actually need something from the probate court that's been signed by the judge in order to be able to navigate processes. Even with insurance companies, you may need that depending on who the beneficiaries were on a policy.
Fabulous. Awesome. This is good information. And I'm glad you mentioned the letters because there is another video that I did that talks about the letters that you need to move forward as she was discussing. And we can also add a link to that in this video as well. So number one is the will needs to be probated. That's a common mistake that people do not realize. What's another mistake?
The next one would be just a tidbit, almost like a subsection of that one. If a person died without a will, they're not at a loss and they can't, they shouldn't feel that they just can't move forward. There are other means by which the probate court can allow a person to be appointed as a personal representative. So even if there is no will, seek out processes with the probate court. Of course, I would recommend in all cases that they seek out an attorney. But even with a will, but there are still options for people to become the representative of a decedent's estate, even if there is no will. So just know that there's still options.
Okay, all right. So that is another mistake then is just thinking that because there's no will that you don't have
any options.
Ability to move.
Yes.
Forward. Okay. Yes. Awesome. What's the next one?
The next one I would say is definitely not hiring an attorney. I think that we have a lot of people that come to us. The probate court is it feels like a smaller court in most jurisdictions. It feels like it's more accessible to the people. And I think a lot of people do represent themselves in probate court. Some people can make it through the process and some people don't. A large majority of those that go in pro se don't make it through the process for one reason or another. But we have people that come to us after they've attempted a probate and failed for one reason or another. They've lost time, they've lost money, and potentially alienated family. And they come to us at a point and say, can you fix it for me? And so a lot of times we can come in even while they're in the middle of their case and help them, but the fees that they would have paid up front don't really change for us. Because we still have to go in and represent them and become their attorney of record and, fix and, correct and move forward with the case. So on the front end, really evaluating your resources, looking at what the estate has, meaning what did the decedent leave behind? Is there any money in the estate that I could use for my legal expenses? Some people don't even realize that if they are taking action, legal action, accounting even, paying fees to move forward with a person's estate, that they can be reimbursed. So once they become the administrator of the estate, any legal fees that they pay, they can pay themselves back as the administrator. Now, if they attempt a petition and they lose, okay, so they file this petition and then family members contest it, or we find out that the will is fraudulent and the court does not validate it, they can't get those fees back at that point. They've spent legal fees and they can't get them back. You have to be successful in the probate case in order to recover your fees from the decedent's estate. But in most cases, I would say 90% of our cases, we are successful in getting the probates. Probably 95%, I would go and go that far, of getting the people the letters of administration or letters testamentary that they need to move forward. It's only a few cases in which we're not able to get them to the finish line because of something that may be fraudulent in that series of events. But when people go through the process, there is a way to recover their expense if there's money in the estate. So don't, sit on it, not hire an attorney. Consult an attorney up front to find out if they can help you. And if so, pool your resources together to pay up front if you can. And then if there's a contingency option, explore the option with the attorney to see if they can move forward on a contingent basis and then take money from either a real estate sale that you may have coming up, or once you get access to the account, you get the money, maybe they can, get paid at that point. Some attorneys will definitely work on a contingency basis. The fees are going to be dramatically higher in that instance, though, because the attorney is coming in not really knowing if they're going to be able to get you to the finish line. And if they don't make any money. But if they do, they're invested in your case. And so the contingency fees tend to be higher than the fees that you would pay out of pocket in a probate case.
Okay, good information. And I don't think we mentioned this at the beginning of the interview. You service what state?
I'm in Georgia.
Okay.
So we handle probate cases all through the metro Atlanta area, even some of the more rural areas. We will take, probate cases there as well.
Okay. And you also do estate planning and will?
Absolutely. So yeah, if we could definitely get people in the door before they pass away and help them to sort these things out, plan for, that difficult family situation that they have, to help sort it out before they pass. It helps the people that they leave behind to give them a roadmap and make it a little bit easier for them to move forward. Again, if they're doing a will, they still got to go through the probate process. But as long as that will is done properly and is clear and unambiguous, I think that, people have some security. I will say, as you asked me that, a lot of people do use some of these online platforms. They use some of the new technology and some of the, electronic software that people have online to create wills. And they're very careful, if you look at the language, to say that we are not attorneys giving you legal advice. So as you do this, it may be attorneys that have created the system, but once you have a question about what should I do with my will, they may or may not have the resources to help you. So I find that people have forms that they've created with these softwares and they didn't execute the document right. So they can give you a document, but if you don't execute it properly, then potentially it may not be as useful to you. So we've had clients come in with a will. It didn't have all of the proper pieces to it. I'll give you one example. We have a client that filed and with us to probate the will, and she was a witness on the will, but she was also the person that was appointed to be the administrator on the will. And so she was the wife of the decedent. So a lot of it should have been hers, but because of the way that will was executed, she wasn't able to take under the will. So she was still able to serve as the executor of that will, but she was not able to take what the husband had left to her. And here she is a wife.
Wow.
But because they didn't do it right, it really, really makes a difference. If there's language that's inconsistent or language in the will that is ambiguous or conflicting, that could be a major problem for somebody that's probating a will. They think everything is sewn up into one bow, but once it's exposed, then there's a problem and only the court can resolve it. And it's definitely not a good situation for the family.
Wow. I want to say two things to what you just said. One, I like how you said, if we can get you in the door before you pass away. That's a nice little slogan. Maybe we should do some t-shirts.
Oh, you know what? Maybe so. Let me write that down.
But you also mentioned, and I know there's a lot of online platforms where people can pay what, $3.99 or $2.99 and just enter their information and they have it. But like you said, it could end up causing you problems. And the thing that gets me is that sometimes we think we can't afford things, but we can. It's so important. Will preparation, estate planning is important. We have got to do better at making sure that our affairs are in order, and nobody is exempt, because we see even celebrities that did not have wills. And so it's important. We have to take the time and make sure, if your budget is tight, make it happen, because it's so important. It's so important.
Yes. I mean, and we offer, payment plans. We offer people to pay half here and then half when they, get ready to do the execution of these documents. One thing that a lot of people I see now coming in and they want trust. They don't even want a will, they want trust. And so that's a whole nother YouTube meeting that we can have about why a trust is good for a family. But definitely people are starting to kind of wake up and see that they need to do these things. But if you care at all about what you're leaving behind, your family, you'll put these things in place because it can be messy. And I really think that people, are living their best life right now. That's what it is. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
let's live our best life. Let's have a good time.
Yeah.
And they spend money here and there on so many different things. But when it comes to, this, it's like, I'll deal with it later. And once you get it out of the way, I found that so many families, they come in, they finally they just do it. They sit down and do it. And they feel so good when they leave. They're like, I got my stuff. When they walk out with their booklet, if they're doing a trust or whatever, they just feel good that they've handled it. So it is definitely a growing thing. It's a progress. Once you make that progress in life, it's a step. And I just urge so many people to go ahead and take it.
Yes. Yes. Awesome. Good information. All right. What's the next mistake?
I would say one of the main mistakes that people make is knowing family. Being appointed an executor is definitely a responsibility. It is not something that allows you to just take and say, okay, now I'm in charge, so I can do what I want to do. It doesn't work like that. If there's a will, they have to follow that will. And if there is no will, then they have to follow what the law says they have to do. But in knowing that, as they approach the process, they need to really evaluate the family relationships that they have. And they need to know if we're together or if we're not together. And how they position themselves entering into a probate process is really knowing, are they together or not? Are we going to be in agreement? And if they're not in agreement, then it helps the attorney that's helping you to position and strategize a little bit better about how to approach the relatives, because you still got to approach them. But how do we do this? How do we do it in such a way as not to alienate people and make people feel resentful or put them on guard and make them defensive? How can we make this a process that we, explain to people? So having counsel that is able to walk you through that process and to be somewhat gentle as they approach it with your family is important. And if you don't know your family, okay, you will learn them in this process, because a lot of people come in, they think, hey, we're on the same page. And once we start to peel back the layers and do that probate process, we realize that, this sister that you thought was on the same page with you is not on the same page. And they have a lot of questions, and it holds up the probate process so bad. So bad that it can literally have you in probate court for years.
Wow.
As you are trying to resolve a family dispute. So getting yourself together with family before you start this process, go ahead and do that Thanksgiving dinner. Go ahead and do that Christmas. Whatever you all need to do to get on the same page before you enter into this process is worth it.
Good information. And every time you talk about something, I think about a previous video, because I did a video, Attorney Johnson, on how to have a family meeting during the probate process. Because like you said, it can get ugly. I mean, really ugly. And
Right.
it shouldn't be like that. And you know why it shouldn't be like that? Because in most cases, now I don't know your family, if you're watching this, your loved one that passed away, but they probably did not want us to be going through all this drama. Really.
No,
It's
no.
not worth it. It's not.
And that's why a lot of people are starting to explore trust, because of the family drama. They want to avoid it. And it definitely leaves it more so in the decedent's hands when they're preparing it. That probate piece, it exposes it to a third party review, which is the court's review. And that gives room for everybody to come forward. Everybody to come forward that could possibly have any kind of quarrel with even the decedent to come forward to make a statement or a claim. So it exposes things. So you definitely don't want to be exposed not knowing your family. And I think a lot of people we really don't know our families. We think we hadn't talked to them in a long time. Go ahead and call them. Call them now before you start this process. Let them know what you're trying to do. Because when they come to us, for us, it becomes a contested case, which means your legal fees are going to be higher. If you're able to resolve your family situation before you come to us, then your probate process will be seamless. You're going to spend less in legal fees, and you're going to get more results and have a faster process, just plain and simple. So a lot of us probate attorneys end up being like counselors, family counselors, trying to bring a family together that's broken. So
Wow.
mending those ties before you start is definitely helpful. Can't always get it done, I understand. But if you can do it, it's definitely helpful.
Wow. Good information. Awesome. What is the next mistake?
I would say knowing the property situation, knowing that bills are still accruing. If there's a mortgage, the mortgage is still something that has to be paid when a person passes. I think people believe, some of them, that the mortgage will just be okay. My father or my mother's passed and I'm living here, or the house is vacant and they'll just have to, deal with it. I mean, they can't pay it because they're not living. The house would be foreclosed if a person is not keeping the mortgage payment going. So somebody's got to keep either the mortgage going, or if it's the taxes, even just continue to pay those taxes. So any money that's paid toward a mortgage to maintain the estate, any money that's paid for taxes to continue to keep that house without liens and encumbrances, that money can be recovered from the estate once the estate is probated, once the house is sold. All of those fees and funds that you paid to keep it going, you can get that money back in a sale. But people have to realize that somebody's got to keep things going and pay. And a foreclosure is not going to stop because you file probate. It doesn't happen. So it's not like a bankruptcy where you can stop a foreclosure by filing bankruptcy. Probate does not have that effect. So an administrator or an executor can be appointed to talk to the mortgage company. And sometimes once that person is appointed, depending on the lender, they will talk to them. They may even give them an additional month because they say, hey, we're getting ready to sell it. We're getting ready to do X and Z. If they can talk to that department, they may allow more time. But if you've waited way too long and they are pretty much already advertising the foreclosure and moving forward, and they are not willing to extend, then the foreclosure can happen. An administrator doesn't have to be a part of it. An executor doesn't have to do anything. It's just the foreclosure happens. Once that foreclosure happens, if there's any excess funds from the foreclosure, the administrator or the executor can grab those funds as a representative of the estate. So we've had clients that really just they didn't come to us in time to stop it. And in our network, we do have with our firm some investors that reach out to us regularly, and they'll say, "Hey, if you have a probate property and somebody needs to sell quickly, we will, we'll buy it." It was too late for them. I mean, literally, they reached out to us maybe on a Friday, and the foreclosure was happening the next Tuesday.
Wow.
So that was just something that they couldn't avoid. But luckily, in the market that we were in, they really did really good. They did better, I think, than they would have done if it had been sold to an investor. So it was bought on the courthouse steps for a good amount of money, and they were able to receive excess proceeds, good amount. Now they had to be evicted from the home. So until they were able to get through the probate process to retrieve those excess funds, they were homeless for about 1 month. So, it's a process, but foreclosure is still out there and it will happen even if you're going through the probate process.
Wow. And I can agree with you because I get investors reaching out to me all the time as a realtor, wanting to know if I have a probate property available. But I just want to talk about quickly, people wait, Attorney Johnson, I think because they're grieving. You know what I'm saying? They just, you so I want to make sure we do acknowledge, that your loved one has passed away and that it may be hard. You grieving, you may not even want to get out of bed in the morning, but I just encourage you to maybe find somebody that can help you through the process, because you can't just not do anything. Because
Right.
like she said, you could put yourself in a position where the home may be foreclosed on. So we do understand it's, emotionally it can be hard.
Absolutely. Yeah, people are definitely are grieving. And I definitely think a lot of people, when we sit down at the beginning, when they're doing their estate plan, And we start asking them, they have all these plans. I want to give this to this person. I want to do this and this and this. And it feels good as they're going through. This person need to have this. The hardest part of the estate planning process with people is, who do you want to leave in charge? And if this person isn't here, who next? And then people cry. People
Wow.
just, they sit there for hours. I didn't realize I'm going to do all this. And it's like, well, you know what? That's what it is. And
Mm-hmm.
so finding and thinking who in the moment is going to be able to be a rock, who in the moment is going to be able to do the business, to manage this process, finding the best person. And sometimes it's not the person that you want to leave everything to. It
Mm-hmm.
may be someone else. It may be a friend. It
Mm-hmm.
may be your pastor. I've had pastors that are probating people's estate.
Wow.
It could be your accountant. It could even be the attorney that is representing you. The attorney may be willing to be the administrator, or the executor of your estate. So you just have to really be, open-minded. And I think that that's something that people, when they create like the online wheels, nobody's asking them those tough questions. And so when it happens, they got a person who just can't handle it. And sometimes, even that rock can't handle it. So it
Mm-hmm.
definitely happens.
Yeah.
So finding somebody, like you said, partnering up with somebody to kind of help bring you back, because
Mm-hmm.
people do go into a slumber.
Yeah.
And I've had clients like that, and they're like, I mean, when they come to meet with us,
Mm-hmm.
they can barely, they can't get through the
Right.
console without crying,
Yeah.
you know? So yeah.
I have a house I'm getting ready to list right now. The excuse me, the executor is the person passed away was his middle school teacher.
Oh,
And she appointed him as the executor, and his middle school teacher now, and he is now like in his 50s. And so that was just crazy to me. So that lets you know
yeah.
you can appoint whoever you want to appoint that is going to be, responsible and handle it. Mm-hmm.
And I'll even share this because this is a personal situation, but I'll share it. I don't think my husband will be too upset. But his grandmother passed away, and she had 5 children. I think it was 5. And she was really the matriarch of the family. So much so I think that her children just were still children in a lot of ways, even though they're completely grown up, you know. But my husband being an attorney, I think the grandmother was so proud of him, and just, probably knew her children, you know. She appointed him as the executor of the estate. And
Mm-hmm.
it created a ruckus in the family. So
Mm-hmm.
the 2 oldest children of that family sued my husband,
Mm-hmm.
and they sued him and said that he had somehow created an undue influence over his grandmother, and that he forced her to appoint him as the executor. He drafted the will, he did X and Z. He didn't know that he was the executor until she passed.
Wow.
She literally hired an attorney in the city of Augusta, where we don't live, to do that will. And so
Mm-hmm.
it was completely, something that he wasn't aware of, he wasn't a part of. But once it happened, the attorney reached out and said, "Here's the will," and now he has it. And what a tremendous responsibility that he had to divvy up. And then I'm tell you what else she said. Not only are you the executor, but do with it as you see fit. So you choose who gets what. I don't even want to choose. Can you imagine?
Wow, what a responsibility.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, these things do happen, but I think she knew her children, and she just knew that this was not, something that she even wanted to be. She didn't want to say, you get this, you get this, you get that. She knew that even they probably would be under the pressure and maybe not handle it the way she would want it to be handled.
Hey.
So it was something, and it still has left a wrinkle. It really has. But overall, I think this is a time that people don't realize it's a precious time, when a person passes, and the family, if you can't come together, it has a long lasting effects, and it's tough.
Yeah, and I'm glad you shared that, because even with that situation, it's like you said, it's still a wrinkle, as you put it. But even with that, God can restore family.
Hmm. Hmm.
A lot of this, people, we just need to walk in forgiveness. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not worth it. Yeah.
absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely. Yes.
Okay. Did you have another
I
mistake?
think I think um I think that is probably the most that I want to give, at this stage, because, you know, there's so much more to it once a person becomes the administrator. So I'll just leave it with this. Being the administrator of an estate or the executor of an estate is a responsibility. And a lot of people may not realize that it's an obligation. I have another client that is still working through divvying up assets. And it's a lot. It's a lot. You know, had to sell a house, has a lot of memorabilia that may be worth money. You got to figure out who can buy it, you know, who's willing to pay market value for these things. And it's been over a year, and she still is trying to figure out how to divvy things up and you know what she can sell and what she can recover. It is definitely, people want it. They say, I want to be the administrator. I know I want to be this person, but it's a responsibility. It's not just you become the administrator, you take everything. And there are civil and criminal penalties for an administrator or an executor that does not follow the guidelines of that will or follow the guidelines of the law.
Wow.
And so when people don't do what they're supposed to do, anybody in that family line can bring them before the court for adjudication. So it's definitely something that, you know, if you don't follow the rules and guidelines, you could be liable. And so choosing somebody who can handle the business is important.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
This was so good. Good information. Wow. Wow. Thank you for joining me today. I'm just so blessed. We have to bring you back. It's so much you can talk about when it comes to probate. It is so needed. So those of you that are watching, please comment below if you have any questions, if you have any comments. Let us know how you enjoyed the video. I do pray it has been a blessing to you. Again, I want to thank you, Attorney Johnson. If you are in Georgia, please feel free to reach out to her so that she can provide her services to you. I will have her information in the description area. My name is Wanda Rochelle. I'm a licensed realtor and probate specialist serving Georgia. I also encourage you to look in the link below. I have a free probate resource for you as well, and we will see you on the next video.
All right. Enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.